Once in a while I get asked, and people ask me, is this still a good career? Is home inspection still a good career? And you know what? I love home inspection. I really, really love it. It's what I think I was made to do. And I can't really, there's a lot of people there out in the world that don't really like their jobs. They struggle through, getting up and, you know, drudgery and going to work. But I'm blessed in that way that I actually really like what I do. And I mean, it's not certainly without its challenges, but for anybody else coming up who wants to enter the home inspection field, especially now, it's a challenge. I mean, I have to be honest, it's a difficult real estate environment we're in, just because home inspectors and other people who agents and other people who kind of make their living in this world, we rely on transactional volume, right? So the more people who are buying and selling homes, the better we're going to do, the more our phone is going to ring. So it's not impossible to start a career in home inspection now, but it is difficult. And the advice that I would give somebody is that you just have to power through, those really tough times. Those tough times. When I first started, it was a different environment that we have now. It was also challenging, but it wasn't as difficult as it is now, for sure. But what I would want to just stress to you guys, if you're going to join the home inspection profession, is that you're going to have, it's going to be slow at the start. It's going to be, no one's going to know you. You're not going to have a reputation yet. And you just have to build brick by brick, inspection by inspection. Let each inspection that you do be your best advertising. I've always considered, my best advertising is just a home inspection well done, and another satisfied client who has the potential to reach out to their friends and family and their circle to refer me. And I think that's the best advertising. So much of my business now is just really by referrals and word of mouth and that type of thing, which I'm truly blessed to have. A lot of my business is sort of also people, finding me online and through those means as well. And then I also have, a group of attorneys that certainly refer me to their clients. So my advice to a new person is stick to it. It's going to be rough, but if you have the mental fortitude and the resilience to power through those really tough times, you will break through. It's not easy. In fact, you're joining a career with a 90% failure rate. 90% of us fail after 3 years, and that's not very good. But you should understand those odds are stacked against you in this profession. But what I do want to tell you is not everybody fails. There are success stories. There are people who actually make it, and make it a long, multi-decade career. And you can do that if you have the mental fortitude and perseverance to push through those really hard times. And there's going to be times where you're going to get slapped in the face and hit in the face, and you're going to be down, and it's going to be slow, and you're going to wonder why you are doing what you're doing. And it's those times where I really must stress that you have to push through those times. You have to find the mental strength to push through and do the next right thing for yourself and your business, and things will start to turn the corner. Trust me on this. I did it myself. It wasn't easy, but it's a very rewarding career if you stick through it and work through those really tough times. And one of those tough times we're in right now. So why do some home inspectors fail? Why do we fail in this business? Like what happens, that we just fail and we give up? I think part of it is that we just don't do the job correctly. And I don't, there's a lot of us who do the job correctly, and then there's some of us who don't really do the job correctly at all. And not doing the job correctly every single time is going to cost you something, right? It's going to come back to bite you later on, okay? So my advice to a new home inspector is don't be a soft home inspector. Don't be somebody who glances over problems, who plays word games with your clients and wants to make everybody feel warm and fuzzy about the real estate transaction, okay? That's not what we do. Okay, we're not there to make everybody happy. We're not there to make the agent happy, the seller happy, and our client happy. In fact, if we're doing our job correctly, somebody's going to be unhappy, right? That's just what we do. Our job is to present information in a way that's educational to our client base, right? Somebody hires me to do a home inspection. They want my 22 years of knowledge looking at a house, explaining and deciphering and being the detective inside that house, trying to find the things that are going on with that house. So later on, they don't have any surprises, right? But if you're a soft home inspector and you just, glance around a house, you shine a flashlight, you do a lot of talking and it's a lot of, kumbaya, you're not going to make it. You're just not. As harsh a reality as that is, you may make it a couple years, but you're not going to make it long term. So my advice to anyone out there is to really learn as much as you can, do your job, and protect your customer, and not worry about making friends with everybody in the transaction. Now, I'm not saying be miserable. I'm not saying be arrogant or mean or hurtful. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you owe it to your paying client to give them the best job that you know how, to convey information in the best way that you know how. And if you're not doing that, you're doing yourself, of course, a disservice, you're doing your client a disservice, and you're doing your reputation a disservice. I have a reputation of being a very thorough home inspector. Fair, but thorough. I mean, I'm there not to embellish on issues. I'm there not to downplay issues. I'm there to present the house to the client as it is. I'm there to tell them exactly what's happening in the house that they're thinking about purchasing. And many times, they don't know what's going on, right? They're hiring me as a professional, licensed professional to tell them what's going on with the house. And I can't stress enough, as a new home inspector, do your client, serve your client well, and eventually things will build upon itself and you'll see that snowball building. One great inspection after another great inspection. One client tells another family member, who tells another person, who tells a friend, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you have a successful business. That would be my advice to you. Hey guys, I just want to say thank you very much for watching these videos. I certainly appreciate it. If it helps one or two people out there, that's all that I can ask for. So here's some defects that I recently found doing home inspections last week. Some of them are interesting, some of them are just sort of a little bit more run-of-the-mill, but it kind of gives you a flavor for what we do in the home inspection profession. So take a look and let's see what we have. So what causes attic mold? In this case, we have a few things going on. We have bathrooms that are not vented out to the exterior, so all that steam and moisture is just migrating up to the base. Down here we have no open soffits, there's no daylight visible, so our attic ventilation is inadequate, as well as not having a ridge vent up top. So attic ventilation in the form of soffit vents is very important because air comes through the soffits and then exits through the ridge. And here we have stagnant air. There's really no ventilation to speak of other than a single obstructed gable vent down there. So it's crucially important to ventilate an attic, to ventilate your bathrooms, or else you end up with something like this. So we have a lot of attic mold up here. We're gonna probably take a sample and send it to the lab for confirmation. But if that comes back positive for active mold growth, a pretty extensive mold remediation is going to be needed in the attic space here. So look for that attic mold, guys. This is called creosote, and it's a byproduct of the combustion process. So when you have this material built up on the inside of the fireplace or chimney liner. This is highly combustible stuff. And this chimney for sure is going to need a good cleaning and servicing. So we don't want to run a fireplace or operate a fireplace when we have this level or coating of creosote. And you can see it gets this shiny tar-like material here. And this is something that they're going to definitely have to get this chimney cleaned before using it the first time to help avoid a house fire. This is an older air conditioning disconnect, but there should be an inner cover in here just to prevent somebody from touching these live wires in here. So we'll recommend that this safety hazard should be corrected, because you don't want a child opening this cover and having exposed live wires. There's a missing inner cover. So that's something you guys can look for in your own homes, is make sure that those wires are not exposed in your air conditioning disconnect. We have another foundation mid-wall crack right here through the mortar joint, typical crack. This is the driveway side. So we have a negative slope of the driveway that's pushing water towards the foundation wall, and that's making this crack worse. And you're probably not going to be able to see it on the video, but the wall is slightly displaced. So we have a little bit of a push against the wall, and it's slightly displaced right through here. So I recommended that they get some estimates on repair, have an engineer come in to determine how to fix this problem, reinforce the wall. Maybe carbon fiber strapping is the way to go here, but something that definitely has to be corrected for sure. Here we have a masonry chimney. At the bottom of this chimney, we see this cracking right here. So this is a cement coating or parge that is installed on the masonry chimney. So this is really not a structural issue, but what it tells us is that water is laying around this here, the base of the chimney, entering small cracks, and then it popped this loose. So we probably had these downspouts before the extensions were installed, discharging here, and that's probably what caused this damage. So we're going to recommend replacement of this parge coating, but the underlying structure of the chimney looks to be pretty good. So this is nothing that's too major, although it looks rather significant. But anyway, it should not be ignored either, because it tells us that water is laying around the base of the chimney, or was laying around the base of the chimney. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but these are carbon fiber straps, and this is a repair on a foundation wall. It's a block foundation wall, and these straps run from the top of the foundation sill plate and get anchored down to the basement floor. And the idea here is to keep that wall from moving inward anymore. So the basement company or foundation, repair company or engineering firm, they actually seal the crack with epoxy sealer. And the idea here is to exert an opposite pressure, and that would prevent that wall from moving inward anymore. So if you're purchasing a home with this type of thing, you got to look for this, and you got to ask some questions. You have to ask some questions about why these straps are here, and is there any warranty or documentation regarding this repair. Things aren't going that great when you see termites eating the wood floor. So here we have termite damage to the wood floor. Not something we see every day, but you can see the mud inside there, and termite damage throughout here, just in this right front corner of the house. Here, see. This is the main service wire to the house, so the main electrical service wire. And we want to see this service wire attached to the structure of the home or the exterior of the house. We see that I can just move that wire along. There's no cleats, there's nothing here fastening this wire to the house. And we want to see this wire attached about every 4 feet just to keep that wire in place. We don't want that one to come down. There's our weather head over here that's only attached at the top, but we have this whole length of wire right here that's not attached at all to the house. So we'll recommend that just for safety reasons. looking under his sink, and one of the things that we don't really want to see is electrical tape repairs to a waste pipe. So always look under the sinks. Very important to know if there's any issues under here. Just don't take for granted that everything is okay, because a lot of times it's not going to be okay. When you look at a house that's older, 1950s, 60s, something like that, you have a newer meter here. This is the electric meter. And then sometimes you'll see a blank right here. And this is usually because they had an electric water heater that was metered at a separate rate than the rest of the house. So nothing really to worry about, but it's sometimes confusing. Why would there be two, meter pans potentially here, one in operation and one sealed? Generally, this was for an old electric water heater that is no longer in use or metered at a separate rate than the balance of the house. I would estimate that this roof covering here, which is an architectural roof, is probably about 15 years old. Given the wear indicators and the material is starting to get a little bit brittle, so I'm estimating about 15 years. Here we have a rolled roofing material on this lower low-sloped roof, and this has a life expectancy of about 12 to 15 years. So we're getting close to this needing a new roof here. In fact, I'll definitely recommend that to the client. We see some wide gaps develop here in these seams, and we see alligator cracking if we can kind of get closer to the material. So alligator cracking, wide gaps. It's time for a re-roofing of this lower sloped roof here. And I would recommend a rubberized membrane be installed, which is a much better material for this application at the front of the house. A couple things here with this chimney. We don't have a properly designed chimney crown or cap on the chimney. And we don't have a rain hat on top of that chimney either. So that's a metal lined chimney now. And we can see that it did have a circular rain hat, which probably blew off during high winds. So that should be replaced, because we don't want to have just water and snow and also wildlife ending up inside the chimney where things can really go wrong. Also, we're going to recommend a properly chimney crown be installed on top of that chimney, which is basically a water diverter for the top of the chimney and allows that water hitting the top of the chimney to be diverted and from running down the sides of that chimney. So few chimney problems here. Older asphalt shingle roof here. This roof is probably about maybe 18, 20 years old, something like that. You can see how brittle it's getting. Over here at the rake, we see that these shingles are bending over and also very damaged right there. So it's another sign of wear. And if we look over here, we can see that there's multiple layers of shingles. There's probably 2 layers here. So in New Jersey, we're allowed to have 2 layers maximum of roofing shingles on a home. So we'll recommend to the client that when they re-roof, all existing layers of shingles should be removed and then a new roof covering installed on the open roof deck. So 2 layers allowed in New Jersey. And looking at this older asphalt shingle roof here, we always obviously checking roofs is a big part of the home inspection. It tend to be a pricey item, and we want to make sure that the client is aware that they have an older roof, and also alert their insurance company if there's going to be any problems obtaining homeowners insurance coverage with an older roof like this. Any exterior porch that is over 30 inches high should have a guardrail. So we don't have a guardrail here along this porch on the side of this house. And just because you accept the house like this with no guardrail doesn't mean the insurance company is going to be okay with this. So you definitely should check with your insurance company and make sure that they're not going to require a guardrail, because most insurance companies will absolutely require a guardrail here. So this is a safety issue, goes in the inspection report, especially if you have children running up here, you don't want them getting hurt. Guardrails are necessary. If you ever look at a foundation wall and you see these 2 circles like this close together, these were probably an oil tank vent and fill line that enter into the foundation wall and that feed an oil tank that was located in the basement. So here you can see that they cemented over these circular areas here and here, and this is certainly not going to inhibit or impact the structure in a negative way. But if you see this kind of thing in a house, an older house in particular, that you're thinking about purchasing, it's likely to be older oil tank vent and fill pipes that pass through the foundation wall. I can't emphasize enough how negative grade or neutral grade affects the water getting into the basement or crawl space. So here we have a negative grade slightly sloping to the foundation wall at the left side of the home, which is going to direct water right against this wall here. They are extending their downspouts away 4 to 5 feet, which is really good. That's what we want to see. But work needs to be done here in order to slope that soil away from this foundation wall. Now we have plenty of foundation wall here to deal with, so we do have the ability to slope that soil away against this left side wall for sure. It's not like the structure is very low to the ground, making that difficult to do. So over here, we do need to correct this problem. And when we go inside the basement, we're going to be looking for water penetration, and I bet you we find some along this left side wall.